to The Silver Chair. Yes, this is the next book in the Chronicles of Narnia and all that, in publication order, not in chronological order, yada yada yada. Those are coming after this, kind folks. Get ready for that. The Silver Chair blends in a lot of Matilda-esque things within this book, which is actually surprising to say the least, because I don't know if Roald Dahl and C.S. Lewis were actually friends, and I actually don't know when Matilda was actually written and published, so maybe Roald Dahl got that from this book, maybe Lewis got that from Matilda. More than likely he got that from Matilda because, hey, he loves to take a lot of ideas from Tolkien, let's just put it that way. And I get it, they were friends, but still, the similarities are uncanny, to say the least. So this book doesn't start out in, a whimsical, countryside or whatever, or a train station, like a certain other thing that also got inspiration from this, Harry Potter-esque, whatever. But instead, we are in a boarding school. Yes, a boarding school with someone other than Eustace. It is Jill. Jill is being bullied by some bullies in this school that apparently, that Lewis also really loves to hammer in, does not have any religion studies or anything like that, but instead has sociology classes. And they use the bullying for psychology classes that they can study for later on. Because religion is it's so vitally important to the public education system that you need to have it, or else it's all hoopla. And also, juxtaposed to the other books and all that, this one is written surprisingly very sloppily. It's the most sloppily written book in this entire series up to this point. Surprisingly, to say the least, because, hey, I thought The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, the plot was just all over the place and unnecessary and boring. But this one is not. Surprisingly, it's the prose that takes the back seat here, as opposed to the plot. Although the plot is not necessarily that big of an improvement, but still, it's an improvement over The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, at least in my opinion. Like, for instance, the whole thing about the headmaster being a woman, it says the headmaster, who, by the way, is a woman. Is there supposed to be a punchline to this? Is women headmasters supposed to be evil or something? What's the deal, CS? What's the deal with women headmasters here? Are they evil? What, huh? What's going on here? Also, I know, words, they mean certain things today that they didn't mean back in that day and all that. It's been like 60 plus years since that book came out. But still, there's certain passages within this book that are a little too, unnecessarily sexual this time around in this day and age. Like, for instance, Aslan blowing him and making him happy. Yeah, that's in the book. But it's not that type of blow. It's actually blowing air through your mouth and all that. Not on anything in particular. Also, being happy is gay. That whole thing. So, yeah. We're off to a great start now. But anyway, Jill meets up with Eustace, and Eustace is like, oh, hey, let's pray to Aslan to try to get, into Narnia and all that stuff. So they start praying, and all of a sudden, the bullies are like, oh, hey, they're there. So they run, and they run, and they run, until they get to this door, this weird door that is always locked, that goes out to the garden and all that, but Yeah, they go through the door, and then all of a sudden, they're there! They're in Narnia! Yay! But instead of just being in Narnia, they're in Aslan's country. Yeah, you know how the rat with the sword in the other book, The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, you know that his whole story was getting to Aslan's country. And the fact that he had to go over this, like, giant wave thing in order to get there and he can't come out. Yeah, apparently, you can, in this book, you're automatically in Aslan's country now. Lore? What's that? I don't know. It's not existent here. Anyway, so Jill they're on top of this mountain, see? And Jill's like, oh, hey, I'm going to look over the edge here. But he's just like, you should probably not, and tries to catch her before she falls, but then she falls. They both fall. They're falling. They're falling. They're falling and falling and falling. But then Aslan, he's there. He blows his mighty gust of wind, hence the blowing passage that I previously mentioned. Yeah. And they ride that wind to safety. Yay. They are there. They are great. Awesome. But they're in Aslan's country now, and Jill's like, oh shoot, it's a lion. And then he's like, Aslan's like, hey, drink this water and all that. And she's like, you promise not to eat me? And he's like, no. Which leads to a lot of questions. It leads me to believe that it was technically a joke, but he doesn't make that quite clear. I thought in the third book, it was said that, this lion is Jesus. So you're saying that this Jesus lion, is going to eat this kid. I know technically it's not going to happen, but as a young reader reading this, if I'm literal, I'd be like, was that a joke? Or was that real? I don't know. No one knows. But yeah, then Aslan, of course, gives the most infamous Lewis lore dump again. Oh, great. He just catches everyone up to speed about what happened in Narnia up until this point. And thank God it's not a year later, like from Caspian to Voyage of the Dawn Treader. It's been at least 50. If you recall, in the third book, I mentioned that there was a star woman person thing that I guess Neil Gaiman took for Stardust and actually worked in Stardust. And that's one of the only reasons why I remember that, was because it was in a much better book, Stardust. Turns out her and Caspian, they got married and had a baby named William. And they're happy, they're filled with joy, and they're just doing the happy family jig, and all of a sudden, this weird snake lady, this evil witch, comes in and steals the baby, and never to return. And apparently the snake, the only reason why I know it's the witch and the snake were kind of connected, maybe up until this point, was that the snake killed the Star Lady, and there was a witch that kidnapped the baby, which is either two separate things, but may be implied that they were one and the same. Whatever. Anyway, Caspian's alone again, so he sends heroes of Narnia to go search for Prince William. But, unfortunately, after, a lot of heroes tried to go find him and don't come back at all, he stops the search because, he wants actual people to rule and not have his entire kingdom wiped out. It's been a long time since then now, and Caspian's now an old geezer. So now Aslan finally decides, you know what? I'm actually going to help this time, and brings in the kids to find William, because, hey, it's about time we get some kids into the situation. Aslan gives Jill some instructions, but I'm not going to really decipher them all, because they, of course, they don't actually follow them, and they fail every single time, so why bother? But then, of course they fail and all that, but, Aslan breathes on Jill, and then Jill gets transported to Narnia. Once again, another lore inconsistency here, but if I'm going to just, berate C.S. Lewis every time there's a lore inconsistency, we'd be here forever, which we apparently already are, since this video is already extremely long, and I'm just we're almost halfway done. We're a little over halfway done. Yay. But yeah, she gets transported back to Narnia, where Eustace is talking with Caspian, and she just misses him as he goes off on his, a little ways away and all that, trying to do his farewell tour of Narnia and all that, and they get the rest of the lore dump from this other old individual thing here. The kids are then teamed up with Puddlegum, who is kind of half frog, half human. That's also very depressed all the time. Because of course he is. But yeah, this half human, half frog thing, he leads the kids to the realm of giants. But before they get to the realm of giants, there is this princess, I guess, and a knight that they're riding together and all that. And they're like, hey, I can get you to these friendly giants to have dinner with them. Just make sure that you mention my name before anything else is said and done or whatever, and all that type of stuff. Gee, I wonder where this is going. They go to these giants, and behold, they are, instead of, being at the feast, they are the feast. Shock! Horror! I know! Whoa! I didn't see that coming at all! But, after that revelation, they pretend to be hapless victims, and then all of a sudden they escape. They're running, and then they find this cave that's too small for the giants to go into, so they go into it, but they slide down, all the way down to this underground layer that apparently they were supposed to go all along. Deus Ex Machina, the book. Yep, we're in that part of book territory these days. But lo and behold, I guess they get captured yet again, Joy, by underground humans. Not weird mess of weird anthropomorphic animals or whatever, but they're actual humans this time. Okay. And they're going to go to this, the witch's kingdom, which apparently it was the same person that had the knights and the woman on the horse. That woman, yeah, she was the witch this whole time. Yeah, gee, I wonder when... Deus Ex Machina the book. Just Deus Ex Machina the book. Okay. They're then taken on a long boat ride to the witch's kingdom and all that, but apparently the knight is very talkative, so he talks about how the humans are digging a tunnel to a far-off land that the witch wants to be conquered. Then he talks about his origin story, how this woman found him as a amnesiac, or a person with amnesia, little boy and all that, and she took him in and will eventually marry him once he conquers the uplands. Okay. Grooming. Gotta love it. No, not really. It's stupid. He then tells about a silver chair. Oh, wait, what? Silver chair? Oh, it's the name of the book! Yeah, surprisingly, it's up until this part of the book this part of the series of books that this is the most interesting part of the naming of this entire book series, in that the silver chair really has no meaning outside of the name. I know, it was really hard to explain. Let me try to explain further. The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, the first book in the series. There's a lion that's a big part of the book. There's a witch that's also a main part of the book. And the wardrobe that's also a big part of the book. Prince Caspian from, the second book in the series, Prince Caspian. He's a main character in the majority of the story. hence why it's called Prince Caspian. The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, the third book. It's the literal voyage of the Dawn Treader. That's basically what happens in the book. The Silver Chair is actually a very, very small part of this overall book. And what's even more surprising is that, with all these great names that C.S. Lewis puts into his books and all that, make them more distinct and all that, Silver Chair is kind of boring. I mean, heck, you can name this book The Adventures of Eustace the Knight and Jill the Squire or something. I don't know. Just anything else other than The Silver Chair. It's just a boring title, and the thing barely shows or makes an appearance in this whole thing. Yeah, it's a key part of the book, but it's just there and then it's gone again. Not a real big part of the book. Yeah, I have issues with that. But yeah, so the Silver Chair is the thing that this knight has to be tied up in, because an hour every night he goes insane and will try to attack and kill everybody. So he has to be tied to the Silver Chair to not attack and kill everybody. And he also apparently turns into a giant snake. Okay. And he's manipulative and all that, so don't try to untie him if, he tries everything he can to try and, do all that type of stuff. So, yeah, they agree, and they tie him up to the chair. But then all of a sudden, this supposed madness that the knight was describing before is actually more clarity and less madness, because he says that he was trapped under a magic spell put on by the princess or whatever, and now he needs to be untied so he can, lift this curse and all that type of stuff. But the kids are kind of thinking, hey, maybe we shouldn't do this. But he invokes the name of Aslan, which is, the secret password for everything in this universe to be good and all that. So they untie him, and then he's like, okay, let's take out this witch. And instead of killing them, he slices the Silver Chair. Yes, okay. You see, this one scene is where the Silver Chair begins and ends. That's literally it. I just find that very annoying. And so the witch, she comes back and she's like, "Oh, hey, let's put y'all under the spells." So she puts these fumous gases in the fire and all that, and starts hypnotizing them with a harp and all that. And they try very hard to not be induced, but they're slowly being induced and all that. But then Puddleglum, he's like stomping the fire, and he's stomping and he's stomping and he's stomping, and all of a sudden, he stops the spell from working and all that. It reminds me a lot of maybe the certain scares that were happening this time with marijuana. Maybe this has a connection between that and marijuana. I don't know. But there's a lot of similarities to that in the fear of marijuana in this book. So take for that what you will. It's at this point that the witch decides to turn into a snake and tries to kill William. But with the help of the kids, William takes his sword and decapitates this witch as a snake and all that type of stuff. Yay! Victory! But no, not really. It's a big, huge thing now that there's a large amount of water coming in to seal off the caverns and all that, and the men are just freaking out. And they're thinking, well, we might as well fight them, try to fight this battle and all that type of thing. But apparently, convenience for convenience sake, they all are apparently under the same spell. Yeah, exactly. Convenience. And they're apparently, get this, from a deeper underground country that they consider this to be the surface. And they want to go back down to their underground empire. And the floor opens up to reveal this living lava monster thing, calling the people to come back down to where she resides and all that. William is offered a tour of their land, but the thing closes up. So yeah, no, he needs to go out and do stuff on the surface and all that. Are you sure that C.S. Lewis didn't partake in any marijuana usage here, or maybe mushrooms? I'm kidding, of course. Of course he didn't, but still, this is just very bizarre. But then again, this is Narnia, so whatever. So the four, they go up to the surface, and apparently it is Narnia. Yes, we are back in Narnia once more, but apparently, there's about to be another battle, but no, it's actually dwarves having a frolicking snowball fight. That's just joyous. And apparently, according to the kids, the moral of this entire story is that witches are evil, and they're all the same. Yeah, it's not like you had other lesson in this story, which I will probably dive into later on as this book ends, but we'll get to that. After a late night snooze, the kids wake up to see that William gave great chase to see his father once more. So they fly with centaurs to see them, but before they do that, they say goodbye to the frog guy, all that type of thing. Great. And then they see that they are reunited. William's reunited with Caspian right seconds before Caspian dies. That's kind of nice, I guess. But it's at this point, not even saying goodbye to William or whatever, that Aslan brings them back to the mountaintop, that they entered the kingdom, Aslan's country, and all that type of stuff and all that. And Aslan shows that Caspian is now young again, and he's alive. His spirit appears and all that, and he's young again. He's just his normal self again. Yay! And at the very end, they get transported back, and they meet Eustace and Jill meet the bullies again, but guess who's also there? Aslan and Ghost Caspian are also there to fight the bullies. Okay. Now, even though I have this, demeaning tone while, describing what this book is, I will say it is a ton better than The Voyage of Dawn Treader in every way possible. Meaningly, because there's an actual plot this time. It's not just a filler book, in my opinion. There's a set goal. There's an ending. There's a finish line that we need to address and get all that taken care of and done and out of the way. And there are actual events that happen that drive the plot along and don't just, random misadventures, like little short stories. Yeah, it's actually a plot now. No real character development, though, although we do get some from Jill, hence why there's always, up until this point, always a story where someone new has to come in and do something because Prince Caspian kind of royally screwed the pooch with character development in that book. So apparently there's got to be a new character in each and every story now because they need to find their way and learn one lesson and no other lessons after. Okay. But leaving all that whole stuff aside, the main lesson I think that this story has to follow is, we're not perfect, we stumble and fall. We may not be able to do everything perfect. Like, for instance, the whole Aslan instructions and all that. We try, but we fail a lot. But if we follow, Aslan's path or, Christ's path as it's being portrayed in the book and all that, then there'll actually be good that will come out of it. Like the whole William meeting Caspian before he died and all that, We wouldn't have done that if we followed the instructions. So it's kind of up in the air. It's up to your own interpretation, I guess, on instructions. You have to follow instructions, but also use common sense, which is a multi-layered lesson that I personally think, hey, this is actually a well-told lesson for kids. And something I believe that a lot of modern-day adults don't even know this lesson. So, this is actually a pretty good lesson for kids. That being said, I do believe that this book is less better than Prince Caspian, just based on, the silver chair not necessarily doing a whole lot to the main plot of the book. It's just a thing. I mean, you can literally call it The Search for Prince William, and it would probably work a lot better than The Silver Chair, but whatever. Also, there's a lot of prose things that are kind of weird, especially this modern climate and all that, which I get, language, it changes from, especially in 60 years, but still, it seems a little too iffy, even by yesterday's definition, like this definition, all that. It seems a little bit iffy to say the least. Also, the just little inserts there about the headmaster being a woman and the whole thing about the school having no religion classes, but instead having psychology classes is just very weird and very bizarre. That's why it's not as good as Prince Caspian, although I would say it's just below Prince Caspian in my opinion. I mean, let me tell you, it is far superior than The Voyage of the Dawn Treader. Let me tell you, it is just absolutely just an improvement in every stretch of the imagination except for prose. But still, it's not as good as the political intrigue of Prince Caspian. I don't know why. Maybe I'm just a Game of Thrones fan or something, stan. I don't know. But yeah, overall, not a bad read. Just a few plot inconsistencies that made me just wish that C.S. Lewis would stick to canon a little bit better. But, other than that, not that bad. But you want to see